The trade deadline is over, the dust is settled, and we even got one game in the books with part of the new-look Chicago Bulls. Now, the real questions finally begin. Did the Bulls finally pick a direction, or is it just the appearance of a direction? Or are we about to watch just a remix of the mediocrity that we've already seen with the Chicago Bulls? We're going to break it all down and what's all going on with this team and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're finally here. We're finally on the other side of the trade deadline. No more moves, no more speculation in regards to what's going to happen soon. Right now, we still have a lot of what's next to come for the Chicago Bulls. And there's a lot of frustration around Chicago Bulls Nation. There are some people that look at this and they look at this team and they're like, yeah, I don't think we're much worse than what we were. There are some people that look at it and say, hey, the roster imbalance and everything that we have here has questions. Yeah, we got a lot of redundancy in the sense of scoring guards. We'll get more on that in a second. But like, what else is on this team? What's the next step for this team? And people, of course, still questioning the direction. Now, the post-trade deadline press conference by Arturas Karnisovas did nothing to add any clarity. And honestly, I'm just being 100% honest, not even just trying to critique the man or anything like that. He seemed like a deer caught in the headlights, almost like he just didn't know what was coming to him after the trade. Like, you traded one of the fan favorites in Dosunmu, a son of Chicago on top of that. Not that that necessarily should matter in roster building. I want to be clear here, right? We all love Dosunmu. But like I've said many times before, him being from Chicago isn't even one of the top 5 reasons I love Dosunmu as a player, right? But for some people, some Bulls fans, that tie to the city is just as important than anything else, because this hasn't been a team with a lot of toughness. This hasn't been a team with a lot of identity and those things. And so now that this team has kind of cleared the deck, right, as far as, now we don't have very many big contract questions coming up. We knew we had one coming up with Kobe White. We had one coming up with Dosunmu. Still got another one coming up with Jaden Ivey to a much lesser extent, I would say. But now the real focus is about, all right, what is this team going to look like over the remaining part of the season? Are they really prioritizing draft position, or are they going to still be competing in the Eastern Conference? They did get officially passed up by the Charlotte Hornets yesterday, I believe, which now means that the Bulls are even outside of the play-in. We're not in the 9th seed, our old friend. We're not in the 10th seed either, right? But it's one game. And, for whatever it's worth, that game yesterday was actually a pretty fun game to watch for the Chicago Bulls. But the Bulls now find themselves in the 11th seed. They're technically tied record-wise with the Charlotte Hornets, but they own the tiebreaker there. So now we get to see what the hell this team is going to do over the latter part of the season. But there are tons of questions for this team, and I want to. That's where I want to attack in this episode. And then in tomorrow's episode, it's a mailbag. I'll hear from you guys on the trade. I know there's a lot of voicemails in the mailbag, a lot of Bulls fans that want to go off on what happened with this team and how they feel after the trade deadline and everything. We will get into that over the weekend. That's what going to be the focus of these weekend episodes, is really diving into that mailbag. That's what we're going to focus in, because I want to hear from you guys. This is a really stark change, and it's while we have progressed, changed over time. We slowly changed from the DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, to where we're adding different pieces, right? With Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins and Trey Jones. This is the first time since AK came and took the first season he took over this team where we've seen wholesale changes at one trade deadline that has left the roster in a completely different state than what it was before, right? So the Bulls do take on the Denver Nuggets tomorrow. They're probably going to get absolutely murdered, but it may be the first game where we see all the new pieces there. We'll see. We still don't know when Trey Jones or Josh Giddey exactly are coming back. But let's focus now on this. Where has the trade deadline really left the Chicago Bulls team? And what are we watching for over the final 30 games of the season? 1, the appearance of a direction. Now, people are going to say, well, hey, it's clearly they've chosen their direction. They're going to go after the draft. They're focusing on that. And I'll say this. I hope that you guys are right? The Bulls probably won't win very many games the rest of the way of the season. And that does give the appearance of the Bulls' direction, being focused more on draft position and really ready to finally take that minor step back to get what you need to take a bigger step forward long term, right? And that's always like, for, all the talk that we had at this trade deadline about the Bulls going after Giannis or AD or, anybody, none of that came to fruition because the thing that's always more sustainable is building organically through the draft, developing your players, right? Those type of things are all there. And that's what you ideally want to do if you want to build something that can sustain. Now, to get that done, it means you have to draft correctly, which is a whole different thing that we'll talk about as we get into kind of the fallout of the draft. But here's the thing, right? I don't know if I trust AK to be patient enough to actually do that, right? And maybe that's just me and my PTSD of seeing AK and what he's done here over the years. But, like, can you tell me that there's not a world in which you see maybe the Chicago Bulls, if they don't, let's say the Bulls have their top 3 prospects in this draft. Do you really think that the Bulls, do you really trust the Chicago Bulls to look at this draft and not say, maybe the guy that we want is not going to be there. Oh, we're going to trade this guy. Who's a disgruntled star? Let's go and trade for that guy, right? I'm just saying. I'm not saying that that's necessarily where I feel the plan is right now, but I'm just saying that I don't count AK out on that. AK has talked about patience before, but it seems like the patience is only one way. He wants the patience to be on Bulls fans to be patient and wait and see whatever vision that he has come to fruition while he goes out and really doesn't stay patient or really doesn't. The thing that we've seen from AK is that when we do go younger, we don't prioritize, we still don't prioritize development. We still are sitting our first round pick. I know he's injured now. We're not doing that type of thing. So I don't know if I trust AK with where things are right now to be patient enough to build organically through the draft. I don't know if I seen that. But hey, if he shows that, it is what it is. The Bulls do have tons of cap space this offseason. And with Josh Giddey already on his $25 million contract and Matas Buzelis is only 2 seasons away from needing a rookie scale extension, you can't tell me that I can't see that you can't tell me that you can't see a world in which Arturas looks at it and says, "Hey, let me go be aggressive and go after some target veteran free agents, much like the DeMar DeRozan thing, right? Like you can't tell me that you can't see AK seeing a veteran that's out there that's probably still talented that may not find a home because teams around the NBA are just like, yeah, we don't know if we want to pay that guy what he's worth. And AK being like, bam, we got him, right? And then it's like, oh, bet, well, we got these young stars around this veteran mix, and then we're trying once again to compete for the 9th and 10th seed. I just worry about that being a thing. It should be an evaluation period. More on that here in a second as well. But I just don't know if I trust AK to have the necessary patience to really build organically and to focus on development. Hell, I'll tell you this. I don't even know if we have the coach that I want to focus on development yet. But hey, we'll see with that, right? The Bulls should be focused on drafting a player. But then I could completely see them going into free agency, and then we have another weird mix of vets that are kind of prioritized. The youth may not be prioritized to the level that we think that they should be so that we can truly evaluate them. We'll see. This is a wait-and-see approach, but they have right now the appearance of a direction. The thing is, AK just has to show that direction actually means something and that he's committed to seeing that through, right? And the option that I would hate the most for this Bulls team to do is, like I said, go through the draft and be that team that's like, oh, man, our draft position is actually 13th. Let's trade this 13th pick. We're going to go get this 28, 9-year-old, like Domantas Sabonis. I can't say that I don't see a world in which AK is like, man, okay, yeah, that center that we want, they're not there. Sabonis, we can absorb the salary, bet, okay, we're good. I could completely see that happen. That would be asinine. It would be stupid, but AK has done stupid things before. And until I see a repeated a consistency of smart decisions, it's hard to trust that those smart decisions are going to come. We just got to wait and see, right? So we shall see when that happens. And especially if AK if we do get the Portland pick this year, for example, and somehow that pick falls between, 18 and 20 or something in there, I can't say that AK may be doing something stupid is all I'll say. I'm just worried about AK doing something stupid. We'll see what's going to happen there. But that Portland pick, it may not even convey. Portland right now is on a 6-game losing streak. So, while it looked like it was almost guaranteed that we're going to get it at one point in time, we may not. Then the second thing to look out for over this, it's now time to see Matas Buzelis step up the rest of the year. We added scoring guards. We added Collin Sexton. We added Anfernee Simons. We added Jaden Ivey, right? We added those scoring guards to this team. but Matas Buzelis still has a chance here to take more of a scoring load and to be more aggressive over the rest of the way over the final 30 games, right? There's no scoring center here anymore in Nikola Vucevic, and while Yabusele yesterday actually scored pretty damn decently coming off the bench for the Chicago Bulls, this is an opportunity for Matas to start working on more things of his game. Maybe he has more point forward opportunities, especially with all the scoring guards. One thing that we've seen before is that, and that's around the NBA, is that when you have a forward that can do some passing and you have a bunch of scoring guards, it frees those guards to come off screens. It frees those guards to be off ball. We have now added a really good off-the-ball scorer in Anfernee Simons. So now the question becomes, do we see more of that opportunity as the season goes on and as Billy Donovan has actual practices with these guys to implement some things? Not a lot of time. 30 games is not a huge sample size, but that's one of the questions that and one of the things I'm looking out for now after this trade deadline. Does Matas Buzelis take a end-of-season scoring leap? And it may not be over the full final 30 games. Maybe it's over the last 20. Maybe it's over the last 15. But I do want to see Matas get more of an opportunity, be prioritized more, call more different types of actions for Matas Buzelis, and that's on Billy Donovan. That's a lot on Billy Donovan because right now, everything for Matas is either at the rim or at the three-point line. And that doesn't mean that just because it's that you can't still run actions for players. Run some off-ball actions. Run some intentionality behind it to get Matas open and get Matas downhill so he can attack the rim. That's really what I want to see here, especially because now we have an opportunity for one of the youngest players on this team that is one of the few bright spots on this team as well. What does he really have to bring to the table? Can he take his game to a little bit of a next level? Give us whet our appetite a little bit going into the offseason and prepare us for next season on Matas hopefully making that third-year leap for Matas Buzelis. So we'll see that one, right? And then the Bulls are still in very heavy evaluation mode. I've been talking about this all season. We've been in evaluation mode all season for a number of different things, but now it changes and shifts a little bit. Because we've traded for Jaden Ivey, it has now put the Bulls back in a situation where they have a very small sample size for a player before they have to make a decision on whether they're going to extend him or not. Now, having Anfernee Simons here may provide a little bit of insurance for that, but again, Anfernee Simons is an unrestricted free agent, and he may want to go to a team to where he can actually compete for something and may want to go to a winning team rather than look at the Chicago Bulls trying to figure some stuff out. Really depends on what we do in some other places, but that's a complete possibility. I know a lot of Bulls fans are excited about Anfernee Simons, but you got to keep in mind, this isn't 2K. It's not as simple as let's put the best offer out, and that means the player's going to sign there. Players have autonomy as well, and Anfernee Simons, after getting a taste of playing for a winning team with the Boston Celtics, may very well say, hey, I want to take my talents to go to a team that I can actually win something with, that I have a chance to compete for something. And that is his right as a player. So with that said, to get back on the Jaden Ivey part of it, Ivey in the first game, still looks like a player that doesn't trust the leg. And there is a mental part of it that a lot of you guys pointed out in the post-game show that is 100% legitimate in that. And you got to hope he's going to get over that. And we'll see how many games we'll get to see of Jaden Ivey and Josh Giddey out there on the court together. Josh Giddey's still out right now with a hamstring injury. But if I'm the Chicago Bulls, I want to get Jaden Ivey out there with Trey Jones, with Josh Giddey as soon as possible to see how he plays with these guys off ball wise, because that was the thing with Jaden Ivey with Detroit. They had to kind of do the your turn, my turn thing at times with Jaden Ivey because he is better with the ball in his hands. So much like we had to see Kobe White adapt to being, a better player next to Josh Giddey, which he did at times at the end of last season, and it was an awful lot of this season, is that can he be that off-ball player? Can he grow his off-ball game to fit better in a backcourt with Josh Giddey? And again, because the Bulls only have this time to determine that, and of course they'll look at what he did in Detroit and stuff like that, it's going to put an interesting kind of pin on this, on what Jaden Ivey can be and what the long-term things are there, right? Then you also have to evaluate who stays between Anfernee Simons and Collin Sexton. I talked about the redundancy that we've added with similar scoring guards with what we did here. Undersized scoring guards that can be a bucket, right? But the fact of the matter is this, is that Anfernee Simons is probably not going to be cheap. It's not going to be cheap, right? And so you could run into a world where, our Bulls fans said, hey, I don't think they're going to pay Io and Kobe White. You could run into a situation where you're right there with the same thing. Like Jaden Ivey could want $20 million. He could want more than that. Like we've seen restricted free agency and how it works. Now, I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to Jaden Ivey's contract situation or talks with the Detroit Pistons. I'll do some research on that. But overall, like you can run into a situation where Anfernee Simons could want 20 to 25 million. Jaden Ivey could want 18 to 20 million. We really don't know. So because of that, you run into a situation like, yeah, you have some redundancy, but are you putting yourself right back in a similar situation? Just now, one of them is restricted. So, okay, cool. That's a little bit different. That's what you have to ask yourself. And that's what we'll see what happens with the Chicago Bulls and Anfernee Simons. But it does seem like the redundancy there, I don't see a world in which we keep Anfernee Simons, Collin Sexton, and Tre Jones. Two of those guys, as well as Jaden Ivey. Two of those guys are not going to be here probably next year. Now, I say that and watch AK bring all these guys back, and we just have this roster full of guards because, again, it's AK. He hasn't earned the right to trust him to do anything right. But Anfernee Simons, Collin Sexton, Tre Jones, all undersized guards. That Tre Jones is the one that brings something different. He's actually a defender. He's actually more of a setup guy. His assist to turnover ratio is good. But Anfernee Simons, Collin Sexton, I just don't see a world in which both those guys come back. And maybe that's why we saw the Bulls trade and prioritize those guys and getting them back, right? So with Simons having the chance to pursue a better team in free agency, evaluating that long-term fit there is really important. And I think also now that we don't have a scoring center in there, seeing what this team does without Vooch. Because say what you will about Vooch, he was second on the team in shots, those type of things. Now, a lot of those were assisted by Josh Giddey, but now we have a different type of center in there. We get to evaluate that. And then another thing, Rob Dillingham. Did AK get another diamond in the rough for a player that was overlooked by his team that drafted him? Or is Rob Dillingham just going to be a disappointment? And that's the question that you have there. Rob Dillingham now with Gershon Yabusele, Gershon Yabusele. Why did I murder his name like that? Him, basically agreeing to not pick up the player option next year. That's not on the table anymore. He's not picking that up. He was the only player that we picked up with money past this season. That leaves Rob Dillingham as the only player with a contract, a rookie scale contract, so it's not huge, with money left on the books after this season. But the thing is with Rob Dillingham, this is a guy that was drafted, 8th overall, that the Minnesota Timberwolves really saw like their future point guard in him, and then they never – I'm always a little bit concerned with that. And I hear the people that are making the comparisons to Josh Giddey's situation and Rob Dillingham. To me, they're completely different situations. Josh Giddey was a player that you saw when he got to actually play point guard, he was productive as hell. And even with him adapting, he was still a player that was still productive. Now, the style that they needed to play didn't fit him. They had a point guard that needed to have the ball in his hand, so he had to adjust. Rob Dillingham was not in a situation like that. If Rob Dillingham was good, the position that he needed to play, it was wide open and for the taking. Mike Conley was washed, right? Dante DiVincenzo ended up being their starting point guard because they didn't have anything else there. It was there, right? So Rob Dillingham didn't take advantage of that. This is a kid that, he's averaged 10.5 minutes per game his rookie year and 9.3 this year, but for a team that needed a point guard drastically. And that to look at him and say, nah, he's not the answer. And I know everybody, not everybody, a lot of basketball fans look at it and say, well, hey, the guy just didn't get an opportunity. And I've said this with our guys. I said this with Dalen. I said this with Julian. The question that I always have for people is, why didn't they earn that opportunity? What are they not showing in practice? What are they not showing in shoot around? What are they not showing when they sit down and do their team tape watch? Like, what is he not showing in the way that he's processing the game to where the coaching staff there and the front office that believed in him when they drafted him, drafted him 8th overall, they looked at him and say, he's not the answer, and he's so much not the answer, we're not even going to play him serious minutes, right? That's the question that you have to ask here. In that case, as it stands right now, Rob Dillingham is going to be Javon Carter of this team. And I stand on that. Until he shows otherwise, I stand on that. So but that's definitely something that we have to evaluate here the rest of the way through the season. What is Rob Dillingham really for this team? He's a shooting guard in a point guard's body that's too small, not strong enough to create his own shot in the NBA. He's not a good passer in the NBA either up until this point, and he has zero defensive upside at all, right? So, prove me wrong. I'd be glad to be proven wrong on this case. But as it stands right now for Rob Dillingham, he is not a player that shapes up or looks like a player that's going to really be anything in the NBA. He averaged 1.7 assists per game and 1 turnover per game. That's almost a 1-for-1. That's not a good passer. So even as a point guard, you're not showing that part of it. So if Billy's done it again, I will be the first to admit it and say, hey, Rob Dillingham ended up working on his game here. He ended up becoming a good point guard here, a good guard here that can put up some points, do whatever else. I would love to be able to say that. I don't want a player on this team to not work out, right? And I'm not one of those weird people that are like, I told you so about this player. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be wrong, but I'm not going to overlook the concerns just to pay lip service to a player that hasn't shown anything yet. So we got to see what that's going to be for him. And will he get minutes on this team? Will Rob Dillingham even get minutes on this team? I don't think so right now. It doesn't shape up looking good for next season. But hey, maybe AK got another diamond in the rough. We shall see. Then the big man and center situation, right? Nick Richards, Jalen Smith, Gershon Yabusele. These are going to be the players that are going to be playing for the Chicago Bulls at that center position. With Zach Collins, we don't know if Zach Collins is going to come back this year. Billy Donovan talked about the fact that Zach Collins could be shut down for the rest of the year with that toe injury. And so if he's shut down, that's it. That's our center rotation, right? And I can see Nick Richards sticking around as a good backup center for the Chicago Bulls team. You know, AK mentioned Jalen Smith as part of the core. So I don't think they're moving on from Jalen Smith anytime soon. But Nick Richards has a chance to carve out a role for himself here. The Bulls still need to go out and find their center of the future. But Nick Richards has a chance here to show some things and to be a guy that every time he's gotten over 20 minutes, he's averaged 9 and 8. And you come here and do that for this team while playing solid rim defense. That's all we really need you to do. And we'll see if Nick Richards. But the big man situation is something to watch for going into this offseason because they got to address it. We thought they had to address it before the trade deadline. They really got to address it now before next season starts. And then the last question with all of this is, was it all worth it? Is this all worth it? Now, this is a question we may not have the answer for a year or two, but the Bulls added more roster flexibility. They added even more cap space. They created even more trade exceptions. They got tons of assets. I've been saying this for a while, but it's about how you use them, right? So if you end up trading all these players away, Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, ended up being right in a similar cap situation and right back looking at the mid, what did you really accomplish in that? So this change has to mean something, and it has to eventually turn into something different than where we already were. And we'll see if the Bulls can do that. And then maybe a last question as a throw in there, what does this mean for Billy Donovan? Is Billy Donovan going to actually stick around for this? Is Billy Donovan the guy that you want to stick around for this? You've now changed your roster 3 times, and not a lot of coaches get to oversee that, especially coaches that don't have winning history. Pop got to see it because Pop has winning. Spo got to see it because Spo wins with those rosters. He develops those guys, right? Those are guys that got to do those type of things. Mike Dangholt is probably going to be one of those guys that gets able to do that because he's shown an ability to develop and work around those things. Billy Donovan has not done that. If the Bulls do lose out the rest of the season for the most part, then that's going to be another losing season for Billy Donovan. How many lives does this motherfucker have? And Arturas Karnisovas is one that said in his press conference, like, we feel Billy's done a good job. Where? So that's all the questions that are left here after the Bulls trade deadline. This is basically the episode I had planned after the trade deadline end, but then AK pissed me off with his press conference. So now here it goes. Let me know your guys' biggest questions, man. And I want to hear from you guys on this one. Are we finally rebuilding? Should Matas take over a larger part of the offense now? And then I want to know from you guys, who do you think stays between Anfernee Simons, Collin, Sexton, Jaden Ivey? Which of those players do you think are staying? And how do you feel about Rob Dillingham? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.